Hey y'all, we are back to continue our story about the 18 days that led to our leaving the church that we are a part of. And this week last year, it was not quite as intense as some of the days and moments that we had previously explained about, but it was kind of like the calm before the storm, or maybe the eye of the storm. We'd gone through a lot of it, and
I
then it
think
was a
it'd be like an
calm.
eye of the
It was the
storm.
eye of the storm, and we're about to get into the other half of it. So anyway, to kind of pick up where we left off, the following week, the following Sunday, which would be this upcoming Sunday a year ago, I had told the pastors, specifically the lead pastor, that Joy and I were going on a vacation. The next weekend, we were going to go see Chris Stapleton in concert. By the way, awesome concert. We loved it.
Great concert. But we had also been telling people that we were going to a concert.
We told them that the whole year because it was a Christmas present. I bought it for Christmas the year before. So everybody knew. I was just that Sunday just kind of reminding people, hey, we're going. And everybody was just like, okay, you know. But then the next day, the lead pastor, the one who had that conversation with that we spoke about, the 3-day assault, he texted me and he was asking why I always plan my trips on Sundays. Once in a while, he said, or every few months is fine. Well, actually, he said just once in a while, not every few months, because ours were quote unquote every few months. Which in reality, we'd gone on, this was August, and we'd gone on one trip.
Yeah, in March.
And yeah. So anyway, he asked me why we did that, and I just want to kind of step you through the whole conversation because it turned really bad in that one evening. I told him that it was because I worked full time. And in order to be able to do things without having to take so much PTO, we did things over the weekends, like Friday through Monday, to be able to have those 2 free days off. So, and the concert was on a Saturday night. I think there was a Friday night concert, but it was a Saturday night that we went to. And we had planned it. We had the hotels Friday through Monday. So he asked me, he was like, so he said that to me, Sundays were expendable compared to work. So right there at the very beginning, I just want to make this point because I think it's important that he said Sundays were expendable compared to work. Those are the words he used, talked about work. And so I was like, you know, you have to realize too, I'm still in the mode of trying to understand him, trying to listen to him, trying to follow him. But at this point too, I'm starting to stand up for myself and be like, you know, I'm not going to just let you run my life. But I wasn't quite there yet. But I was enough to be able to have this conversation.
He was making changes for sure.
Right. So I explained to him that, you know, we were listening to a live stream on the trips, and so we were still part of things. But he kept trying to get me to be like, regardless of what the work thing was, we need to just focus on being at church on Sundays. And then he used these very specific words. He said, I am not trying to tell you what to do, just trying to get you to see what you are doing. So he would always do that, where he'd be like, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not making you do anything. I'm just, you know, putting this information out there for you to decide. But the problem is that, like, if you, as you'll see in this conversation, if you don't do what he wants you to do, then you get in a lot of trouble. So yeah, technically he might not be saying you cannot do this. But then when you say, okay, I'm going to do it, he's like, you're bad, essentially.
And he's going to tell you why you chose to do that thing. And he's going to explain how you're a horrible person.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I went on to explain, like, okay, I see what you're saying. I'm going to, moving forward, we won't take Sundays off to do things. You know, we'll be at church. We're not going to, you know, do that. I see what you're saying. I was trying to understand and get on his page. And then he was like, okay, so change it now. That's what he said. And I said, are you talking about this weekend? And he said, are you? And I was like, I literally said, no. I said, I am not. So right there, I'm very specifically saying, no, I'm not talking about this weekend. We're still going. And then he goes on to ask me if there's any way we can make Sunday work. And I was like, I don't really think so. We're going to be in Nashville. It's going to be really far away. We're going to be tired. It's a late concert. I just explained, like, no, it's probably not going to work. So then he proceeded to tell me all these reasons why I should change it and how I could make Sunday work and how we could come back for Sunday evening service and all this stuff. Which we ended up doing. And I just was like, okay, but no, we're going to go on this trip.
Yeah.
That was the point where things went south. Things were really bad because at that point I made the statement that we're going to keep going. We're going to go on this trip because I had told him even prior, I'm not talking about this Sunday. We're going to go on the trip. And so he said, I hadn't listened to a word he had said. I'd let him on, saying that Sunday was more important than anything else. But I had told him, okay, yes, but we're not going to change anything. I literally told him that we're not going to change anything. And yet he told me I was leading him on. So at this point, he's ignoring the stuff that I'm saying, and he's just making up this history of what the conversation was. This is what was so important about communicating with him via messaging, because it was all written down.
Yeah.
And whenever he kept saying that I was lying to him over and over and over again, I was like, how? How was I lying? When did I lie to you? I told him, I said, I never said I would rescue Sunday by examining all avenues to change my plans. And he was like, do you want the quote? And I was like, yeah. And I'm just going to give you the quote. I said, I hear what you're saying. You're showing me how I put work first instead of Sunday first. Yeah, that's off. Work can wait or be allocated to other times. And I told him that this is where it gets very specific, because I was talking about work, right? And that's what we said. If you want to go back, if at some point I'll release all these text messages so you can see them and see the whole like confusing. But if you go back to what we said at the very beginning, what he said is that I was making Sundays expendable compared to work. So the whole time we're talking about work.
But you're also agreeing, you're still talking within the framework of what
he wants me to do.
You to do.
Yeah. And so then he said, oh, well, we're talking work in general. We're using it as work is just the term we're using for other activities. I'm like, no, like I literally said work. And so this is where it goes back to something he would always say is that words mean things. Like he would use that against us. He would always be like, this is the specific word that I said. So you can't take it and use it in other contexts. And yet whenever he wants to change or generalize a context of a word, he can do it. There's so many more stories that we'll be able to tell you about the duplicity of what they say and how the hypocrisy of how they say one thing and do something else, or use the Bible only when it works for them. And so I kept on and I was like, no, this is what I was saying. You know, I told you from the beginning that I wasn't changing anything. I never led you on. I never lied to you. And this just continued. This back and forth continued for a while until he basically just called me a liar. And at the time I was a deacon of the church. He requested my removal as a deacon to the supposedly senior pastor. And it was just back and forth. And at this time I am like torn up inside, because this is, you got to remember who this person was to me. Like this person was like the ultimate representative of God. Like what he said about me, what his approval was about me, anything was truth, was what was true for me. So like if he said something that I was doing was good or bad or whatever, that's what I believed. And so when he was calling me a liar, saying I let him on, saying all this stuff, and I even told him in the conversation, it hurt me, because I was not wanting to have this like tension and divide between us, but I also wasn't going to be blamed for something that I didn't do. And something that Joy laughs at me for, I've used AI and ChatGPT a lot for just learning things and seeing, whatever. And so I go on to ChatGPT and I upload all the messages to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, was I lying? Because I needed an outside perspective to verify what I was doing. And It said I wasn't lying.
It said you weren't lying.
I've also talked to my therapist, and they're like, no, you're not lying.
Yeah.
I've had multiple people look at this thing and tell me, read the whole conversation. And they see that from the beginning, I told them, we're going on this vacation. Never said I wasn't, said I understood his point, but we're going.
Yeah.
And then he told me I'm lying. And so you can explain more the dominance of what he was trying to do, because it wasn't just about a vacation. It was more about control.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Totally. Yeah. That was the whole point of the whole thing.
He didn't like that I said no. Like, people don't say no to him.
No.
If he says something, you got to be like, yeah, I'm going to do that thing. And also just the fact that, like, he thought that he like, pastoral authority was for us to come to him and get approval for things like going on vacation or just regular day-to-day things. Like, like authority. It says they have authority in spiritual growth and spiritual maturity, but the level of every little thing in your life, from work to everything, no matter how personal and intimate it is, he wanted to have control over it. And he even preached about that in the following Sunday about how you have to tell everything to your pastors. And the fact that I hadn't communicated with him about it throughout the year, about the trip, meant I wasn't getting pastoral covering for the trip, which is
basically it's just getting permission to live your life.
Yeah.
But so something I'd like to say about what happened there with you being kind of so confused that you had to ask for an outside perspective on what was going on. That is a product of the abuse that was occurring to you at that moment in time.
Yeah.
Because you were so gaslit. You were being told, no, you really did lie. No, you really did.
Right.
No, you really did. By someone that you loved, by someone that you trusted.
I believed everything.
And someone you grew up
hearing. This was 30 plus years of listening to him. And
you grew up hearing this person is a representative of God. This person speaks truth. So it's very difficult. It was very difficult for you to break free from that.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, to give you kind of behind the scenes, I was saying to him, hey, he's messing with you. You aren't lying. This isn't, it's not what you think it is. He just wants to control us. He wants to control what we're doing.
Yep.
At the time, we can kind of get into more of that. At the time, my voice was bad. I was seen as bad in the relationship because of the different things that were said about me to Jonathan. And so
there was a lot of like divisive things said by the pastor.
Very specifically that I would lead him astray, or that I was a bad person, or that I could do things. And so whenever I would try to warn, whenever I would try to say, hey, this isn't okay, hey, it was harder for me to get through to him. And that was by design, and that was very intentional. And so that is another thing that we will also talk about, because it does come to a head.
So this weekend is really whenever it gets
really
worse.
Bad. Basically, there's a cycle of abuse, and we can put up a picture of what that is. All of a sudden, things are bad. Everything he does is bad. Everything we do is bad. And something that he's spent his life listening to, someone who he's respected, and even this position of being a deacon, while that was really not a biblical position, because all that meant was you would literally slave away hours of work to just provide for everything.
It wasn't used in the biblical sense.
Not used in the biblical sense, but it's still something he cared about. It's still something that Jonathan cared about, and thought he cared about that role. He cared about being a provider and loving people and giving things to people, to have that be stripped away or be threatened to be stripped away, that is a very, very cruel thing for that to be done. So
we'll keep coming with these videos here, and you'll be able to see the next few days get worse and worse. So
yeah,
we will see you next time.